She's just going back up to her desk.
Okay.
Oh, we're good to.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, I got confirmation. We're good to go.
Thank you very much, Melinda. So good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Information Technology Subcommittee meeting. I think this may be our last before we go into the next chapter. So I just wanted to say it has been a pleasure working with everyone, particularly our staff over the course of the last 4 years. I'm going to take a look for quorum. Maybe I could ask Melinda if we could take a roll call. I think almost everyone is here.
Yes. Councillor Curry.
Here.
Councillor Giroux.
Here.
Councillor King.
Present.
Councillor Tierney. Vice Chair Kavanaugh.
I'm here.
Chair Leeper.
Good morning.
Your quorum, Chair.
Thank you very much. Are there any declarations of interest? Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes. Can I get the minutes confirmed, please? Are those confirmed?
Confirmed.
Thank you. Members will have received this past Thursday a link to an MS OneDrive folder containing the minutes from the confidential portion of the ITSC meeting of Monday, November 29th. Our ITSC minutes are those confidential ITSC minutes 8 of the meeting of November 29th confirmed.
Confirmed.
Excellent. So we have 4 items on today's agenda: Information Technology Services 2022 Work Plan Update, an update on connectivity directions, Open Data Update 2022, and the in-camera verbal update on technology security. Before we proceed with the agenda, General Manager Valerie Turner would like to make some opening remarks.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for the opportunity to provide some brief opening comments. Today, we're looking forward to updating committee members on the progress that has been made on key initiatives, including the Technology Work Plan, Open Data, Connectivity, and Cybersecurity in Camera. The work has progressed despite the numerous challenges and competing priorities of the past 2 years, most recently the devastating storm that took place just over 2 weeks ago. As mentioned earlier, we did lose power in our primary data center at Constellation. However, all of the systems worked as planned. The systems were maintained and came back up in an orderly fashion following the restoration of power. Thank you to the committee for your guidance and support, and to each member for your time and attention, especially today when you have other pressing issues to manage. And thank you to the entire Innovative Client Services team for their unwavering commitment and professionalism, especially to those who are directly impacted by the storm.
Those are the comments. Thank you very much. Thanks, Valerie. Much appreciated. So we have, I believe, presentations for each of our items before we go in camera. So we'll just introduce those in turn. And the first one is a presentation on our Information Technology Services 2022 Work Plan Update from Sandro Carlucci, Jason Barney, Matt Grenier, and Bev Gibas. So with no further ado, Sandro, over to you.
Thank you, Councillor. If we could put up the presentation, we appreciate it for the first slide. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you, Chair and committee members, for allowing me to present an update on our 2022 ITS work plan. This will also serve as a retrospective look back on this term of ITSC and highlight some key projects and initiatives that we can all take pride in. Merci aux présidentes et aux membres du comité de me donner l'occasion de faire le point sur le plan de travail des STI de 2022. Je ferai également une rétrospective sur le mandat de CSTI et souligner certains projets et initiatives clés dont nous pouvons toutes être fiers. Next slide, please. This IT subcommittee comes on the heels of yet another major emergency, one that continues to challenge our communities, our businesses, and our organization. Information Technology Services take humble pride in supporting this response and recovery. As part of the community supports initiatives after the violent storm ripped through our region, ITS was heavily involved in supporting the emergency reception center that were immediately standing up across the city. ITS provided laptops, iPads, cell phones, Wi-Fi pucks and hubs, and other technology peripherals to help residents charge cell phones and other devices to stay connected. The ability to stay connected is so very important when an emergency hits. Families and friends needed to check on one another, and the ability to connect can bring comfort. These tech supports also ensured city staff who were delivering services at those centers had what they needed quickly and on an ongoing basis. Since many of our city facilities were also impacted by the storm, ITS has been working closely with facility services to ensure critical infrastructure remain undisrupted. And one example was at, as Valerie mentioned, at the 100 Constellation, as one of our improvements that we learned after the tornadoes of 2018. The center at 100 Constellation gets refilled with diesel fuel to make sure that we can kind of continue our continuity of businesses with all the key applications that we have at Constellation. Though it was a long spring, and then the other important part is our existing cloud-based Office 365 tools allowed staff to connect securely from offsite location that had electricity and internet. This was another example of ITS preparedness that pays dividends. And though this was a long spring weekend and many ITS staff were taking a well-deserved break, in the early hours following the storm, many had reached out to their ITS managers or their supervisors to see how they could help. Some of these colleagues were dealing with their own personal situation related to power outages and damages to their property. I'd like to take this opportunity to publicly thank the ITS staff who jumped in to support emergency response efforts, as they have done for every emergency that we've experienced during this term of council. Next slide, please. Information technology services partners with the city's many different lines of businesses to provide innovative and cost-effective technology solutions to support the delivery of municipal services to Ottawa residents. ITS Services strives to deliver digital leadership by proactively supporting client groups to achieve their business priorities through innovative technology, while we consider all the legal, all the cybersecurity, all the statutory, and all the record-keeping obligations. Next slide, please. ITS is accountable for the operation and the security of the city's computing and information environment. Through core operation, ITS is responsible for leading the way by ensuring that the city's assets and informations are reliable and secured. ITS core operations enable the city with reliable and secure IT infrastructure to ensure a seamless work experience. ITS is committed to investing in our IT infrastructure and working to continuously improve core services for the city. Les activités principales de STI permettent à la ville de disposer d'une infrastructure informatique fiable et sécurisée qui assure un environnement de travail sans faille. Les STI s'engagent à investir dans l'infrastructure TI et à améliorer constamment les services de base offerés à la ville. Next slide, please. I really like this slide. This is one of my favorite slides because it just shows you all the chaotic work that we have and how we organize it. And I take a lot of pride in this slide, although if you ask Patrick Fraté and Jen Rice, they said that they created it. And if you ask my management team, they say they came up with all the definitions. So I guess I like it, but I didn't do a lot to create the slide. But it just shows you how we get all the work that comes in, and we do a great job with our intake. It goes to Beverly Gibbs and to Christine Moran, who do a lot of the intake as our tech sol. And then if it has to go to applications, it goes to Jason Barney, Allison Gazer, and Morgan Tam. If it relates to SAP, it goes to Susan McKercher. If it's something with our infrastructure, it goes to John Call. If it has to do with frontline services, it'll go to Lee. If it has something to do with the new innovations, it goes to our tech mod group and Matt Grenier. If it has to do with security, it goes to our team with Chris Fulton leading our tech security team. And so ITS has developed a multi-year roadmap organized in these 4 focus areas. How do we become a digital city? How do we use advanced innovations to solve problems of tomorrow? How do we become more of a modern IT shop? And how do we ensure that we're a secure city? Aligning with the city's strategic priority to deliver service excellence through innovation and the Innovative Client Services Department's Digital Excellence pillar, which ITS is the lead, ITS continues to create a technology environment that is strong, that is interconnected, that's secure and modern. This innovative environment supports a transformation of the city's workforce from a dependency on physical tools and workplace to an adaptable and collaborative digital workforce. Next slide, please. Actually, I like this slide too. So every slide I keep liking more, but this is where we have the support from council, the support from IT subcommittee, where in February of 2022, ITS received council approval to transfer $1 million of professional services funding within the information technology service budget to the compensation budget for the purpose of establishing 9 full-time equivalents as outlined in the report. Those positions were created to contribute to initiatives in the following functions, many of which were focused under the digital city pillar. Internal resources represent lower costs compared to the more expensive hourly rates for external consultants. Internal resources enable capacity development and cross-training opportunities. Staff that take over from consultants can cross-train other internal resources to create skill depth, which is not possible when consultants are performing the work. Securing stable internal positions focused on these modern digital solutions help to attract and retain employees with exceptional technical talents. And we have such a talented team here at the City of Ottawa. This also supports one of ITS' goal to grow our people and our plan for succession. As the city continues to replace legacy technology with more modern platform solution, ITS is building the required capacity internally to design, to build, and to support the range of new capabilities. Investing in internal full-time continuous resources reflects the culture within ITS, where we invest in our staff and support employees' engagement while we simultaneously honor our commitment to excellence in service delivery. While these 9 positions will be used across multiple projects, an example where some of these new resources are being allocated is the replacement of the legacy lagging application used mainly by our colleagues in the City 311 service. This key project and subsequent maintenance will produce a modern cloud-based platform and will continue to improve customer service and experience. Next slide, please. Okay, I won't say it, but I'll say it, but this is also another one of my favorite slides, because it allows us to go through the term of council accomplishments. I'm always like that. My kids always say, you never have a favorite set. I keep getting more and more favorites. But with our partners and our clients, ITS has completed significant work this term of council. Avec le partenaire et le client, les STI ont accompli un travail considérable au cours du présent mandat de conseil. This slide highlights some of the incredible work that has been done over the past 4 years. Not only did we meet key deliverables, but we also exceeded our commitment in the city strategic plan to deploy digital solutions. I would now like to highlight some of our key accomplishments. The COVID-19 pandemic response and the vaccination response. COVID-19 forced the city's technology hand almost immediately. Online innovations that have been conducted through long pilot projects were accomplished in weeks, mainly because we had staff that were willing to commit to long hours to quickly deliver innovative solutions. ITS, we leveraged existing tools and new technologies to quickly respond to the flood of requests from internal clients whose lines of business required immediate implementation of new processes due to COVID-19. Requests were triaged to prioritize those that were needed to directly support COVID-19 response and subsequently to support a variety of recovery initiatives. Some key initiatives include virtual council and committee meetings and COVID-19 town halls. In the early days of the pandemic, it soon became evident that council, committee, and other city public meetings would need to move online to adhere to physical distance directives while maintaining transparent operations and ensuring accountability. ITS worked closely with our colleagues in City Clerk's Office and with OPH to secure Zoom and Bell conferencing licensing, access technology security and accessibility requirements, and provide technical support to hold council, committee, and COVID-19 town halls virtually while simultaneously broadcasting on YouTube. This also allowed committee to have a video feed, something that had only been previously reserved for council. The COVID-19 Ottawa database, which was called COD. The COD application went live on April 29th, 2020. COD was instrumental in helping OPH improve processes by centralizing COVID-19 related cases, contact, and outbreak data in a single case management and reporting solution in the early days of the pandemic. Getting this application in the hands of OPH team in under 5 weeks was a tremendous feat. This project exemplifies great collaboration between OPH and ITS teams and how we came together as one team, as one city, one team for a common goal. Le présent projet illustre excellemment collaboration qui existe entre les équipes de SPO et de STI, ainsi que la cohésion établie pour appliquer la vision une ville, une équipe à un objectif commun. The Ward 19 by-election, regular operations, but with additional implications due to the pandemic. The Ward 19 by-election, ITS technical team collaborated closely with the elections office to provide innovative new solutions to respond to new health and safety measures. These contributions were far and above and beyond what a typical election cycle would require, and were in addition to the competing and evolving and ever-changing priorities each team member was managing simultaneously during the first year of the pandemic. Our goal was to create a safe environment for people to vote, and with the health protocols in place, we succeeded. Uptake from residents on these initiatives was excellent, and several of these will once again be used for the 2022 municipal election. In addition, in the early days of the vaccination rollout, the COVAX solution was foundational for the vaccination clinics and required significant IT effort to successfully support the vaccination efforts. In addition, ITS provided extensive testing vaccination support through COVID neighborhood vaccine analytics, OPH chat bot for residents, long-term care technology supports, including provisions of equipments like iPad to ensure residents could connect with their family and friends, provisions of laptops to CSSD to ensure vulnerable populations continue to receive support, adoption supports in partnership with our colleagues in HR in the early days of the pandemic when thousands of our staff were learning how to set up their equipment at home. Many were redeployed and unfamiliar with the new role technology or systems and required training and support. We made significant infrastructure improvements and security improvements as well. As we move forward this year, several TechSol members in our team jumped into action with HR to implement and support the adoption of the Can Immunize solution, again with the familiarity of an extremely compressed timeline. Other important and critical ITS work that has been accomplished include improved service modernization and digitalization through the generic online payment solution, which enables residents to place online orders and payments for 27 city services, and Geo Ottawa. In addition, significant enhancements were made to Geo Ottawa, the popular public web mapping tool that allows users to access a variety of information layers on the map, such as parks, schools, city facilities, property, parcels, zoning, and air photos dating back to 1928. ITS was pleased to launch the enhanced public Geo Ottawa application in November of 2020, and that several advocates and residents have been asking for these features, and we look forward to enabling more over the next year. Next slide, please. So I just really want to highlight two key ones with some of the numbers and the volumes that we put forward. The Microsoft Enterprise Agreement, Office 365. In 2018, Council approved funding for the implementation of Microsoft Office 365, which gives the ability to work anywhere, anytime, from any device. Office 365 was implemented in 2018-2019 exclusively by city staff, the only municipality known to have done this entirely with internal resources. This was accomplished with the cooperation and partnership of all the departments and service areas, a major digital transformation for our organization. Cette réalisation a été accomplie avec la collaboration et le partenaire de toutes les directions générales et de tous les secteurs d'activité. Une transformation numérique majeure pour notre organisation. Of course, this all happened before we knew what was to come in March of 2020. This timely, complex implementation ensured business continuity during the pandemic response and recovery, and most recently during the storm recovery. Office 365 has been instrumental in immediately and seamlessly supporting over 4,000 administrative staff who were instructed to work from home to reduce COVID-19 spread, ensuring business continuity. As part of the implementation, we also deployed SharePoint, which is currently in the final stages. We upgraded our Windows 10 and many other tools that form part of the Office 365 suite, including Microsoft Dynamics and Power BI. In addition, the entire corporation is now networked, over 21,000 licenses, providing equal access to all employees for resources, for communications, and for departmental specific information. The other key item I think I'd like to be as proud of is the testing vaccination site support. The ITS frontline service team provided on-site technical support for all of the city's COVID-19 vaccine mass clinics. At the peak of the vaccination campaign, ITS supported 17 mass clinics and 25 community and school vaccine clinics per week. Today, we're still supporting 4 mass clinics and 6 to 10 community and school clinics per week. ITS not only delivered innovative solutions at testing and vaccination sites, but our technology solutions were also reliable. There was never a circumstance where vaccine clinics couldn't proceed because of IT issues or glitches, including interfacing with the provincial system. Even at mobile clinics where we had to be creative on how to set up technical equipment, we never had to turn anyone away due to IT issues. Feedback gathering on social media was excellent, noting that the sites were streamlined and quick, people were in and out and quickly, and everyone felt relatively safe. Between mobile clinics and mass clinics, ITS deployed approximately 200 laptops, 75 handheld scanners, 80 printers, 300 iPads, and 100 Wi-Fi hubs across over 417 mobile and static locations. Next slide, please. Engage Ottawa. Based on council direction since 2019, residents have engaged with the city through Engage Ottawa, a digital and centralized public engagement platform. A great number of interactions have taken place, equating to 670 visits per day on the Engage Ottawa site and over 22 visits per day on the French platform Partisans Ottawa. There are 9 engagement tools available, from forum topics to survey to questions and answers. Residents can also inform themselves on city projects by watching videos or reading documents. Next slide, please. I'd like to highlight some of the accomplishments that we achieved last year in 2021. 2021 was a very productive year for ITS. We completed over 170 work items that spread across all 4 pillars, but really the 5th pillar because we had COVID that we included as well. The work that we did for COVID in 2021 highlighted the COVID-19 vaccination clinic AI simulation that allowed OPH to really set up those clinics and to make them really very effective and efficient. We did IT setup and support for mass vaccination clinics. We provided hardware and support for the vaccination clinics, both the static and the mobile. We created a lot of OPH temporary network accounts so they can onboard that additional staff that they needed to support all the clinics. The COVAX system support, which was really key to interacting with the provincial systems. The vaccination booking system that we put place early in the days of the vaccination when we were waiting for the province and we had to prioritize some of the key individuals that were eligible for the vaccine. The COVID-19 self-assessment tool to allow staff that had to go to work feel comfortable that they filled out a form, that they were safe going to work. The Can Immunize Shield employee mandatory vaccination policy that we put into place. And why am I so proud of these accomplishments? Because every one of these projects enabled us to better serve our city or community and provide easy to use services to our residents or employees. In the next few slides, I'm going to highlight some of the work that's taken place under all of the different individual pillars. Next slide, please. For Digital City and Advanced Innovations. Digital City. The Digital City pillar focuses on using technology, relationships, and experience to advance the consistency, collaboration, security, and the self-serve access for employees and residents. This slide demonstrates the incredible accomplishments that were completed in 2021 under this pillar. Some examples include the ward address lookup tool. As a result of the 2020 ward boundary review, a new public-facing application was developed to ensure residents to find their new ward by searching with their address information. This is particularly important as we come to the 2022 municipal elections and people determine who their candidates are. This required substantial collaboration between our application management branch and several other stakeholders. The solid waste phase 2. This project was the second phase of the replacement of the solid waste legacy system with Microsoft Dynamics, which allows for tracking of work orders, in particular from residents and the 311 system. This multi-year effort was fully deployed at the beginning of 2022 and enables interconnectivity between several city systems. With respect to advanced innovation in 2021, The advanced innovation pillar focuses on enabling the next wave of technology, the next wave of talent and tactics for all services and program using emerging technology and behavior-driven designs. Technology continues to be a key enabler of our transformation as an organization looks to create efficiencies, build a thriving workforce, and digitally transform. You'll see several accomplishments from 2021 under the advanced innovation pillar. These include the Internet of Things OPH vaccine sensors. This proof of concept uses sensors inside vaccine storage fridges to ensure they remain at a certain temperature and sends an alert if it falls below that threshold. This successful pilot was eventually deployed on a wider scale, and this has ensured that less vaccine waste is created due to improper storage. The Data Analytics Platform, or DAP. We always have to have these acronyms. I should have a slide on all our acronyms, right? But DAP. But an expansion of the DAP phase 1, which enabled business-led analytics and intelligence gathering across the organization as part of the city's strategic priority, service excellence through innovation. Public Works was the latest use case in developing a solid understanding of the technology tools available for the department through their water and wastewater division initiatives. These kinds of analytics help streamline our service and save taxpayer money in the long run. If we go to the next slide, please. Modern IT. The focus of modern IT is around replacing legacy systems with powerful platforms and continue to modernize the IT skill portfolio and service delivery model. It also seeks to ensure that ITS services are streamlined, agile, secure, and efficient by applying automation tools to IT processes and procedures. This will create capacity and enable rapid development of business solutions. And we've accomplished a lot of work under modern IT. It's the one that's really key for us to invest in our individuals. And as you look at the slides, we did a lot of upgrades. It really just enhances the solutions that we have in place. With respect to Secure City, the Secure City pillar ensures the protection of people, services, and data against harm by way of theft, unauthorized use, disclosure, modification, damage, and/or loss of the city's digital infrastructure. The city's digital infrastructure, data, information, and information system are critical assets requiring a mature security posture. In a time when cybersecurity threats are at an all-time high, the work within this pillar has become increasingly important. By securing our city and making sure information is properly processed and stored, we're ensuring our residents' information is kept safe. Security is embedded in all technology solutions and is an imperative part of the employee's daily work life. As the security landscape is impacted by world and regional events, ITS continues to evolve and further fortify the protection of our information, including the promotion of diligence and awareness through the Be Secure Security Awareness Program. Next slide, please. So let's look forward into 2022, our work plan. Despite competing pressures for ITS resource to support critical COVID-19 response and recovery efforts, ITS has made significant progress on many exciting in-flight projects and initiatives. Almost midway through 2022, the organization is now seeing a welcome shift in the load of COVID-19 response and recovery initiatives, allowing resources within ITS and internal clients to focus on other key priorities. In addition to all these work plans that I talked about, we continue to offer city departments our usual services. Based on last year's numbers, we expect to see millions of technical interactions happening and thousands of requests for services. As you can see over here, this is what we highlighted by what we refer to as ITS by the numbers for our operation. It highlights a lot of the numbers that we had in 2021, and we expect to do the same. So we do all that core support with all this other work that we talk about with regards to some of the projects that we want to transform and involve the work that we do at the city. If we can go to the next slide, please. Digital City. As the world continues to move digital, we are moving with it by using technologies, relationships, and experience to advance the consistency, collaboration, security, and self-serve access for employees, residents, and the business. This slide highlights the top priorities of items for 2022 and identifies digital city work items by quarter in 2022. Some key item we're going to be working is to replace CLAS and LMS. The CLAS replacement will provide recreation, culture, and facility services with a modern solution using software as a service technology that continues adapts to changes in the industry. LMS will enhance the current level service with a bilingual and accessible public-facing online portal for permitting and licensing, development, and committee of adjustment application. Streamline and transform business processes aligned with LMS and the online portal will benefit residents and the business community with a more efficient intake process. In addition, Information Technology is proud to announce a partnership with the Social Planning Council of Ottawa, SPC Ottawa. The Frontline Service Team has established a program with support from our ICS Strategic Sourcing Team to donate retired Windows 10 laptops to SPC Ottawa. Under the partnership, SPC Ottawa will then arrange for the equitable distribution of these devices to communities and families in need. We are also excited to have this partnership in place. Next slide, please. Advanced Innovation 2022 work items. Over the last 4 years, the focus has been to establish readiness of a digital platform and technology ecosystem. ITS is achieving this goal by enabling innovation within the city at the cross-section of Internet of Things, analytics, and automation technology. These technologies are already being adopted and adapted to deliver against the organizational strategy and departmental key initiatives. In 2022 and 2023, the focus is on maturing the existing capabilities that have been established and having the holistic platform and tools in place to enable the organization transformation. Examples where these platforms and technologies can be leveraged include services offered for automation of business processes and analytical insights, visualizations across the city, the availability of automation and analytic tools for employee self-serve, creating capacity through process automation that will then further improve client and employee experience, and integrating technologies across the organization to enable further innovation and support our vision of an integrated digital platform. Next slide, please. The modern IT pillar emphasizes the large number of initiatives at over 39% of all the work in our work plan. This also includes some of the biggest initiatives, one which I'd like to highlight next. The city must adapt and adjust to consider better IT centralization throughout the organization to ensure the security of our systems and data. This has become even more critical with the ongoing rapid adoption of digital solutions across services and programs. As such, ITS will be implementing a multi-year enterprise IT program, which will more formally centralize IT functions under the purview of the Chief Information Officer and IT services. Enterprise IT relies on a modern partnership between ITS and other service areas involving regular collaboration, communication, and consultation with departments. This coordinated approach ensures compliance with ITS policies and standards and enables enhanced purchasing power, risk mitigation, increased return on investment, and a reduced technical footprint. Examples of the work that's being conducted on this program include developing an enterprise-wide capabilities catalog and software rationalization roadmap, formalizing technology partners' functions and reporting requirements, and reviewing purchases processes and authorities for hardware and software. Additionally, we have several items on our work plan up to working for the 2022 municipal election, including the new candidate portal, which will provide information to election candidates in an easy, accessible, and secure electronic manner. A substantial part of the ITS workforce will be involved with the election's operational requirement. Next slide, please. Secure City. ITS has been continuing to enhance its security framework through the establishment of the Identity and Access Management Program. In 2022, the program is focused on establishing governance, refreshing policies and technology standards, enforcing authentication and authorization, and deploying key technology such as privilege account management, multi-factor authentication, and updating security standards. Next slide, please. Thank you for the opportunity to share our work plan and highlights with you today. Although the past 2 years have been challenging as we navigate an unprecedented time, ITS successes and lessons learned will continue to guide us as we look forward to future projects and initiatives. Nous vous remercions de nous donner l'occasion de partager avec vous aujourd'hui notre plan de travail et nos principales réalisations. Même si les 2 dernières années ont été difficiles en raison de la situation sans précédent dans laquelle nous nous trouvions, les réussites et les leçons apprises par les STI continueront de nous guider dans nos projets et initiatives futures. Thank you, Chair Leeper, Vice Chair Kavanaugh, and committee members for your unwavering support through this term of council. I'd also like to thank my ITS colleagues. It's just such an amazing team. Thank you. You guys are so good. The ITS leadership team, the ICS leadership team as well, and our general manager, Valerie Turner, for their ongoing support. I'd be pleased to answer any questions you may have. Thank you again.
Sandro, thank you very much for a very comprehensive overview. I think what I like most is that it's such an overwhelming amount of work, and you've been working under such difficult circumstances, and there is no drama. The department has chugged ahead and made sure that we have what we need in order to deliver the services that we need to residents, and that it works. I see first that Vice Chair Kavanaugh has some questions.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, Sandro and team. Wow. if we didn't test you with the pandemic, we thought, nah, we got to test you one more time and have a total power outage across the city. The challenges are immense, and I appreciate all the work. I don't think we could have ever predicted it. Right in the middle of a long weekend. And I appreciate the comments about all the workers having to rush back and work on all these things, because it was immense. And people forget about the things that they use daily in their hands. And when they don't work, it's problematic. Even with power, when I have power, no connectivity. And it means you're cut off. And as the chair pointed out, maybe we all have to get transistor radios with batteries and just sometimes that's technology. But no, I appreciate very much all the work. My question is about cell service, because that you did have it on your list there, and it seems to be a priority too, because people were using their cell service data plans for instead of Wi-Fi. We think of Wi-Fi as the inexpensive way to get internet service, but as a backup, cell service is really important. And I'm wondering how we're keeping an eye on that, because some servers were working very well and others not so much. And I won't name companies because that wouldn't be fair, but it's related to the power and everything. So how does that all fit in?
Well, thank you for the question, Councilor, and thank you for the nice comments. I agree. We're so lucky to have such a great ITS team that really wants us to help and support, and they've done such an amazing job over the last 2 years. With regards to cell service, it is one thing that we reached out with the emergency management team, and they did a great job actually bringing them in the fold to get updates, because we only have certain influence on the service that's provided. But I'll take it back with the team, Councilor, and I can reach out to your office afterwards. Some of the action plans that we want to do after the fact, or what we can do with regards to some of the cell service. I know that we use some of those companies as you mentioned, and so some of them were working and others weren't. And so that's part of a little bit of a lessons learned that we're going to have from our side. Just like we did a good job with regards to the data center 100 Constellation, we've improved that. We've got a lot more business continuity. I think the next thing that we're going to deal with is regards to cell service, but at the same time, we're only limited in how much we can influence some of these providers, but we should look at what do we need, because you're absolutely right, because communication is so important, especially during an emergency.
Thank you. And I noticed it was the cell provider for the city that wasn't working. That's why I particularly mentioned it. So we do have control over that, since that's the one that we reach out to. So in the early days there, I had to rely on my private phone, not my work phone. So that's something that we can look at, and it's just knowing what their systems are for these situations. And as climate change continues, I know we're going to be facing it more and more. So anyway, I appreciate all the work. I think my colleague has a number of questions too, so I'll leave it to him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kavanaugh. Councillor King.
Thank you, Chair. And I also want to echo your comments and also those of Vice Chair Kavanaugh, and really commend staff for deploying technology in a time when it seems that we have a crisis every quarter rather than a crisis, every generation. And I appreciate the difficulty of really implementing these technologies. So I really do appreciate the work of staff. I think that the fact that we rolled out 365 before the crisis was very incredible. At the end of the day, because it allowed staff to obviously transition relatively quickly to a work at home, a telecommuting type of environment for thousands of employees. So I really do want to commend that, as well as the work that was done during the COVID crisis, which continues. But the amazing work that was done, especially around vaccination clinics, I observed that firsthand with tours of different centers with public health. And obviously the technology that was required to record records of vaccination and immunization, really required, a lot of technological investment that was put in place really quickly. So I do want to commend you for that, as well as the latest crisis. In my ward, we were working hard with city staff to establish 3 emergency response centers, and we saw the technology that was deployed for public health employees, for other staff employees, and even just the basics of charging and having access to Wi-Fi in public city facilities. So all of these services continued to move forward. And I feel it's because of the stance that you've been taking in the work plan around centralization, centralizing data, centralizing resources, which I also commend you for, in order to really ensure that we protect against different types of threats, including threats to the continuity of services being provided by the city, as well as cyber threats. So I think that that's a very, very powerful what staff has been doing. And obviously employing this cloud infrastructure from Microsoft, which is a very noted large company. So my question after all of that commendation is really about, the shift in 311. Often cloud-based technologies are proprietary. And I'm just wondering is that going to be a factor as we shift some of our 311 technologies, because obviously there's a lot of instability, and the areas in technology are often tumultuous. Companies merge, they're acquired. We see a discontinuation of technology relatively quickly. So I'm just curious, is that a factor? It's one thing to move all of our operations, back office operations on Microsoft's platform. We know they're not going anywhere, but I'm just curious about the 311 technology that might be dependent on smaller companies.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to ask the manager of applications at the city, Jason Barney, to kind of maybe address that question, because him and his team are working really closely on that project.
Thank you, Sandro, and thanks, Councillor, for the question. With respect to the 311 project, so yes, we are moving on to Dynamics 365, which you mentioned is a cloud-based solution, and there are a number of benefits to that. Our current solution right now requires us to have certain downtime periods when we're doing upgrades to the system, which we have to try and schedule. These are things that will disappear as we move to the cloud-based system. And as you mentioned, Microsoft is certainly a large company and not going away, but they also support APIs. So we have integrations to other systems. So for example, our telephony system, we're working with that vendor to ensure that we have seamless integration between the telephony providers and the back office systems. Likewise, we integrate that system with a number of our enterprise systems behind the scenes. So, if you're looking at our work order management systems, systems like SAP, systems like Maximo, systems like our best of breed GIS system. They are all integrated through a technology, a service bus that allows us to have that integration to those various systems and removes that hard-coded dependency linkage between those systems. So we've architected it in such a way that I think it supports numerous systems, but still leverages the benefits we're going to get out of a cloud solution.
No, excellent. I appreciate that. If there's a interoperability, that's what we want to hear to ensure that we're not dependent and locked into a vendor who might not be there because of the forces of innovation in the technology market. So I appreciate that answer. I appreciate the foresight of staff. And once again, Chair, I appreciate all the efforts that have been undertaken over this term of turmoil. The amount of work that has been done in the back end has been incredible, and I want to thank staff again for its work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. See no other hands, I have a couple of quick questions. The first of which is the class system, the Parks and Rec registration system. Can I just hear again that is close to being replaced with something that will cause residents significantly less frustration?
Yeah, we're working very closely with our colleagues in Rec, Culture, and Facility Services, along with the vendor. There are certain requirements that we need in order to change over to the new system. And we are working very closely with the vendor. We meet on a monthly basis to kind of walk through, because we don't want any more surprises, but we have the go live is planned after the election in November of 2022. And so we're working very closely with them. And I've escalated to the CIO of that company. We meet on a monthly basis to kind of go through all the issues. So it's in our plans right now. It's in our plans of Rec and Culture as well. We all have that common goal that we want to go live, but we are dependent on ensuring that the vendor meets the requirement that we have from a city perspective with regards to, being a bilingual language, AODA, PCI requirements. So they're working on that. They've put their best people on it. So it's in our plan. I don't want to jinx anything bad, but things are progressing. And the good thing is we are communicating very closely with the vendor.
It's one piece of drama over the course of the term of council, which is pretty good. My second question is around budget. Obviously, COVID resulted in significant new expenses. I'm guessing that we will have significant new expenses coming out of the most recent outages. Do we have reason to believe that we will be made completely whole after those incidents?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. With regards to budget, we are working very closely, both within our finance support unit as well as within the finance corporate area with the budgeting. So we're looking at where we are today with regards to some of the new expenses we get because of COVID moving forward. Do we have the budget moving forward? And then with respect to the emergency and some of the expenditures that we had from that, we're working very closely with them, identifying them in a specific cost center, and then they'll look to see if there's recoveries, et cetera. But that other part too, with regards to the budget, we do meet again monthly with our finance individuals. We've put together our spend plan based on the information we had at the beginning of the year to the end of the year. Obviously, things have changed, and we communicate with them back and forth. So I think we're really having good communication, good collaboration with our finance colleagues. We've been able to identify the costs that we feel were COVID related. Those have been identified. We have the costs that were related with the storm. Those can be identified. We do know our base costs, and we're working with them to really kind of identify what is the base cost of running IT. So we're doing certain things with regards even the enterprise IT to look at the holistic to support it. What does it cost to run IT? What does it cost to evolve some of our solution? What's the cost for transformation? So we're having those discussions, and we're going to have them obviously when we start the budget process in 2022 for 2023, as well as the next term of council.
So looking ahead to the budget that we will pass in January, I'm not expecting to see I'm expecting that we will be made whole for the most recent storm. I'm expecting it will be made whole with respect to the pandemic. I know the premier has told the mayor that they'll be paying the bills coming out of the Derecho. Can you preview, though, any pressures that you're seeing develop through the course of these next few months that we should be anticipating in the next budget?
Security is always going to be an area that we're going to look to expand. The second part, as well, as when you want to modernize your platforms, you can't just get rid of the old solution. So you have to pay that maintenance, plus you have to pay the new maintenance as you implement it, right? So that's going to have a pressure that's going to be identified. Also, we're going to identify skill sets that we're going to require as we put in these new solutions to maintain them. So we've been able to get a little creative for 2022, but moving forward, we're going to be looking at, and so all of these conversations we've been having with finance, and we're going to continue to have them as we start moving forward to ensure, because technology is really important, as we talked about all the good stuff that we did. So we need to look at how do we invest in IT? How do we use efficiency within our organization to streamline, to do some efficiency from our own perspective. But at the same time, as it grows the solutions, we need to have that support. And so some of it, as I mentioned to you, is from a security perspective. It's going to be maintenance. It's going to be some professional services that we're going to require to, because they'll bring in that skill set, then coaching up of our own internal individuals. So we're starting to put that information together, as I mentioned, for 2022. How is the budget moving forward? But we're also realizing that we should really look at the next 4 years. Where do we see some of the growth, and how do we be a little bit more proactive from that perspective and not be reactive in future years?
And is it fair to say that you're looking at developing a lot of the necessary skills within the existing team? I was really pleased to support the reallocation of dollars into our own people. Having a multi-skilled expert IT staff is something that I've seen real progress on in the last 4 years. I think you've got a really great team, and I'd like to see that continues. Are you committed to that approach moving forward of trying to continue to develop our people?
Absolutely. We looked at, we don't call it training, we're calling investment in staff. Our staff are just an amazing group. Just when you look at the highlights, I'm just proud to read it. They did all the work, right? Just like I talked about that slide that I created. I didn't do much. They did all the work. And so they're great to do the work. And you're right, investing in those individuals, getting those full-time equivalents, keep taking away the acting, put them in there as substantive individuals, really pays dividends for us because they're engaged in the work that they're doing. We're using world-class solutions. We talked a little bit about Office 365. We have SAP. We've got Esri. Like, we have world-class solutions that people want to be involved with. And the investment that we're making in security, people want to come and work at the City of Ottawa. We've got such a great environment. And to your point, investing in these individuals with the new technology benefits us, right? They learn the latest and the greatest, and we're not going to be reliant on external consultants for this support and for the enhancements that we have. We'll always bring in consultants when it's something net new, right? Because we don't know what that project is. So we'll always have that requirement to bring them in when it's something net new. But that's the only reason we want to bring it in, not from a workload perspective. We really want to use our own staff. Just huge benefits from it, from a perspective of not only from a costing side of it, but just the engagement of it and the relationships that you create with other internal users of the system. You build that collaboration, that network, and how we work better together. It pays huge dividends.
Sandra, I have the opportunity to participate in the data club that's held, I guess, once a month or so.
Yep.
And, you know, I see the excitement in our data people and the engagement with which they, or the engagement that they have with the tasks of the city. And I just want to suggest that is a foundational change over the course of the last 4 years that I've seen in terms of our people, upon which you have been able to build all of these other innovations and all of this other progress, again, largely without headlines and largely without drama. So I congratulate you for that. I see that Vice Chair Kavanaugh has her hand up again.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you, Sandro and team. Yeah, no, in terms of that, by the way, the data club sounds fun. I didn't hear about it.
It's the best data club.
Can't wait. I just wanted to check up in terms of the recreational registration. Sorry to bring these things up, but this is the outer facing things that the residents use. all your good work is everywhere. But if they can't get their kid registered for soccer, that's a problem. And you said November, and I'm a little concerned about the fall. Is there any temporary fixes for that influx in the fall that tends to happen?
Thank you for the question, Councillor. And yes, unfortunately, when we work with the vendor, we work with our own work plan. We have to find certain windows that makes good sense for the implementation. With the election, we do go something called like a little bit of a brownout. We don't want new solution coming in. We really want to focus, make sure we have a successful election. So the next window, as we looked at it, it's actually called a window of opportunity, right? Is in November. And you're right, there are going to be registrations going to happen in the fall. Our staff does the best work. There are certain things that we can't control with regards to the performance of the system, and then just the demand sometimes is more than what the solution can hold. But we're going to make sure that we're going to try to have one more time to kind of go through it. I know this is more than one time we were hearing about the last time, but have our fingers crossed this will be the final one, and that we'll have that new experience coming in at the end of 2022 into 2023 with the new term of council. It's been one thing that it's not to anyone's fault. Everyone's working really hard, and unfortunately it is a complex solution, right? And at the same time, we have high standards at the city. When we introduce solutions, they need to meet certain marks, right? It's got to be an A+. Like, we're not going to go with an A-. And so our colleagues in Rec and Culture work really hard with all the business requirements. This is what we need. Our IT works from that perspective to make sure that this is what we need from a technology, usability perspective. Security comes in place to make sure that the information is secured, that we really want that A+ solution. And I feel confident with the conversations that we're having, everyone's involvement. But you're right, from the October timeframe, unfortunately, we're going to have to kind of go through one more time with the bumps and the bruises, but we're hoping that will be the final time.
Okay, thank you very much. 311 was obviously very used the last couple of weeks, and the ongoing comments I got is when people are told to check their website, but they haven't got any power, so they phone. And are we increasing texting capacity? Have we looked at for that for 311, just so people can get instant answers and know that their concerns have been placed?
That's a great question. I'll turn it over maybe to Jason, if you can maybe ask a little bit about that, because I know you're working on some of the stuff with the 311.
Yeah, and if I might, just to provide some context, Councillor, the situation we faced with 311 during the storm was multi-sided. So we had a normal contingent of folks on the phones for a long weekend, Saturday afternoon. And then as we saw what was developing and we started bringing folks in, we had communications challenges of our own. So as we were phoning some of our staff to bring them in, we couldn't reach them because their power was down, their phone lines were down. So we had an extraordinary difficulty in reaching folks. And when we did reach them, some of them had difficulty finding their way in because they had no power, they couldn't do their job from home. So just getting them to physically come in, and then we had no power at Constellation. So it was partially a technology capacity issue, but very much also a human issue, that we simply could not raise enough folks in the early hours to bring them in to service the calls. So had they been texting or had they been phoning, I'm not sure that the net result would have changed, to be completely honest. We are looking at business continuity plans around our 311 agents, but this truly was an exceptional circumstance. And we found ourselves with the highest call volumes we've ever had. Surpassing COVID, surpassing any other situation. And then because our staff live in the community, they were also personally impacted and difficult to reach, or were not able to come in because they were dealing with issues of their own. So I just want to provide that kind of human context before I turn it over to Jason on the technology side.
Okay.
Thanks, Valerie. With respect to texting, one of the things that we're looking at through this new project on Dynamics are some of the capabilities we're going to get on that platform. One of those things being omni-channel. So that's going to provide us a better experience and more opportunities for residents to interact with the 311 system. So I don't want to commit at this point to we're delivering it in this release, but those capabilities are there. So this would mean that, for example, if a resident called and our queues were high, we could divert them to a chat bot, for example, to take that call depending on the call type and provide that type of information. So when we are seeing higher volumes than expected, that's an avenue. Or like you said, through submitting through social media, through text, through calling, through email. So those are all capabilities that are built into the system that we want to look at, and how do we leverage that in the future to make sure that we have that capacity when we need it.
Okay, so yeah, no, it'd be good to get an update on that later as it comes through. I think I'm hearing more about people wanting texting for information when, especially seniors, actually. That's the one thing that they use is texting, believe it or not, because they don't tend to go to computers. So it's a good way for them to get their questions answered or information. I talked about that with finance in terms of like when there's an extraordinary use of water. There was an instance where somebody got a mailed notice saying your water supply is over and above. That means their tap was open and running. And all those days when something got mailed out to them by snail mail, they got the notice. So can there be notices by text and things like that? It's something to look at in the future. So just overall another form of communication. So I'm really happy to hear that we're looking at these. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sandra. Thank you again for a great comprehensive overview. For the committee, is this item received?
Received.
Fantastic. Thank you. Our next item is an update on connectivity directions. One of the things that I know Councillor Kavanagh and I have both been asked a lot about is whether or not there is a role for the city in helping to bring down the cost of broadband, particularly for vulnerable users. And so I've asked staff to give us an update, having been looking at this for some time now. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Natalie Cahal and Angela Scanlon for the update, please.
Thank you very much, Chair and members of the ITSC for your time this morning. I'm pleased to be speaking to you today about this important and extremely topical subject, connectivity. La connectivité joue un rôle essentiel dans notre communauté. So if I can ask the clerks to put up the presentation, that would be great. We know that connectivity plays an integral role in our community. We also recognize that the connectivity landscape in Ottawa is very complex. Ottawa is a large municipality, close to 2,800 square kilometers, and which is significantly larger than any other major Canadian city. So if we put together Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Quebec City, and Calgary, we're larger by 500 square kilometers. So moreover, 90% of our geography is rural, and there continues to be connectivity gaps in these areas of our city. We're on the wrong presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I just noticed, thank you. Thank you very much, wonderful. All right, so, we are very rural, large rural geography, and it continues to play a role in the gaps for our city. We also have over 500 recreation centers, close to 100 arts and culture buildings, more than 100 transit facilities, and approximately 1,400 public parks, which would make enabling all of our public spaces with Wi-Fi a costly endeavor for the city. At the same time, we also know that other levels of government have a role to play in making sure our residents are connected. The Government of Canada has made a minimum level connectivity a priority for Canadians, and as you will hear later in our presentation, has taken action to improve access to affordable high-speed internet across Canada. Likewise, the province of Ontario has committed through significant investments in infrastructure, of course, and to ensure that every community in Ontario has access to high-speed internet by the end of 2025. At the municipal level, we understand the personal, social, and economic importance of having reliable and widespread access to the internet for our residents, and Innovative Client Services has responded. The COVID-19 pandemic and the storm emergency are recent examples and reminders of how important connectivity is for the quality of life of our residents and of our community. La pandémie de COVID-19 et l'urgence de la tempête sont des exemples récents et des rappels de l'importance de la connectivité pour la qualité de vie de nos résidents et de notre communauté. Tout au long de la pandémie, nous avons constaté une dépendance accrue à l'égard de l'accès à l'Internet pour des activités telles que l'école et le travail et les interactions sociales. Pour cette raison, comme vous l'entendrez plus tard dans notre présentation, nous avons ajusté notre approche du Wi-Fi public. Nous nous sommes concentrés sur le soutien à l'accès des populations marginalisées, y compris les groupes qui méritent l'équité, ceux qui ont des besoins socio-économiques spécifiques, les quartiers mal desservis, y compris ceux des zones rurales de la ville. Next slide, please. Just last week, in response to the widespread power outages and devastation following the storm on the May long weekend, the city deployed temporary connectivity to help make sure that residents without power could stay connected. Our team in IT, as you heard today, deployed temporary wireless smart hubs to 10 locations across the city, providing additional Wi-Fi access points for our residents. Even days after the storm, dozens of residents were accessing sites like the Hunt Club Riverside South Community Center on Palenka Drive to charge their devices and use Wi-Fi. It does feel kind of scary to not be connected to those you love and to the services that you need. Access to these sites ensured that residents continue to connect with friends and family during a very stressful time. Throughout these emergencies, we have taken an agile response to connectivity that builds on the Smart City strategy, Smart City 2.0, that was passed by Ottawa City Council in 2017. Today's presentation will focus on the work we have done to respond to additional directions from this committee with respect to the city's role in advocating for improved connectivity, opportunities for the city to explore broadband as a public utility, and the expansion of the city's public Wi-Fi program. La présentation d'aujourd'hui portera sur le travail que nous avons accompli pour répondre aux directives supplémentaires du comité en ce qui concerne le rôle de la ville dans la promotion d'une meilleure connectivité, explorer le rôle de la ville en tant que service public en large bande, et l'expansion du programme Wi-Fi public de la ville. I will now hand it over to Angela Scanlon, who is the Manager of Experience Design and Innovation in Service Transformation, and she manages the connectivity file for Innovative Client Services. Angela.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Natalie, for the introduction. And thank you, Chair and members of this committee for your time today. Next slide, please. At the September 21st, 2020 meeting of ITSC, staff were directed to examine the role for the city advocating in investments in broadband infrastructure upgrades to ensure that the city's vulnerable and rural residents are better connected. Not unlike other municipalities, the City of Ottawa does not act alone when it comes to responding to the connectivity needs of residents. As discussed previously at this committee, there's a high degree of interdependency between the different levels of government in this area. Moreover, all three levels of government rely on significant cooperation and coordination with the private sector. When it comes to specific roles of the different levels of government in terms of connectivity, the federal government sets the national policy direction and has committed to providing Canadians with a minimum download and upload speed of 50/10 by 2030. This level of government is also responsible for the regulatory and legislative oversight of telecommunications services through organizations like the Canadian Radio, Television and Telecommunications Commission, the CRTC. Provincial governments, on the other hand, take a more active role in the development of the network infrastructure needed to provide internet to their communities, such as the Ontario government's commitment to invest $4.2 billion to expand broadband infrastructure across the province. Lastly, as defined by the Telecommunications Act of 1993, municipal governments are responsible for coordinating access to the rights of way, so roads, utilities, and lands required to build out this infrastructure. As the level of government closest to residents, the city understands the imperative nature of connectivity. Within this context, the City of Ottawa has focused its efforts on three main areas. 1, right-of-way coordination. 2, public Wi-Fi investments in city-owned facilities, as we will hear more about later in this presentation. And 3, advocacy to other levels of government on behalf of residents. From the outset of the pandemic, the city has, alongside other large municipalities, participated in the Big City Executive Partnership to advocate for the federal government to invest in the federal infrastructure required to provide access to affordable internet in Canada. Following these efforts, we have seen the Government Canada propose a new policy direction that will require the CRTC to put in place new rules to improve competition and support consumers, which is expected to lead to lower prices and better telecommunication services for Canadians. We've also seen the federal government expand its Connecting Families initiative to offer low-income families and seniors access to $20 a month high-speed internet, which is expected to benefit many Canadians, including eligible families in Ottawa. The city also participates in organizations such as the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and the Association of Municipalities of Ontario to provide feedback to other levels of government on connectivity-related legislation and associated policies and regulations, ensuring that the city's voice is heard. Moving forward, the city will continue these advocacy efforts through ongoing participation in these types of forums. Additional information on efforts to enhance connectivity locally, particularly in the rural areas of Ottawa, will be discussed in more detail in a report that our colleagues in the Planning, Real Estate and Economic Development Department will be bringing to the Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee at the end of June. This will include updates with respect to the Provincial Accelerated High-Speed Internet Program and the Federal Universal Broadband Fund. Next slide, please. During the September 21st, 2020 meeting of ITSC, staff also received a direction to examine opportunities for the city to provide broadband connectivity as a potential utility service. Given the overall complexity of this issue, professional services with expertise in this area were retained to assist with the assessment of the overall feasibility of this type of model for Ottawa. This engagement included consultation sessions, an assessment of the public utility model, and options for next steps. With respect to the consultations, these were conducted at the end of 2021 with members of this subcommittee, internal subject matter experts, and several external groups, including the Ottawa Public Library, Ottawa Community Housing, and Invest Ottawa. The consultations revealed several challenges faced by Ottawa residents. These can be summarized as falling into one of three categories. First, there was the issue of affordability. For many in Ottawa, access to the internet is seen as cost prohibitive. That is, a choice between that, food, or shelter. Even when a low-cost internet option is available, the service is often viewed as insufficient. That is, it's not fast enough to do what they need to do. Second, there's the issue of accessibility. There are areas of the city, most predominantly those in rural Ottawa, where access to acceptable levels of high-speed internet is not available, meaning that residents may be unable to do things like stream video, attend class, or work meetings online. Technology literacy, along with access to equipment, computers, laptops, is a related concern, particularly among older and equity-deserving groups. Lastly, there is the issue of overall quality of service. There is a general sense that the quality of service is inconsistent. That is, there are interruptions, lag times, reduced speeds in rural areas and core areas of the city during peak times. When asked about the role of the municipality in responding to these challenges, the consultation suggests that there is no consensus on whether or not the city should have a role in providing access as a public utility service. There is, however, broad support for the city doing what it can to support the connectivity needs of residents, including expanding free Wi-Fi in city facilities and advocating for improved network infrastructure. When it came to the assessment of the public utility model, the professional services found that there is a growing number of municipalities in North America that are building and operating their own broadband networks as a way of offering internet as a service to residents for a fee. In Canada, we've seen a number of municipalities consider this model, including the City of Toronto. Earlier this year, Toronto committed to creating a city-owned high-speed municipal broadband network. However, Council voted to remove this recommendation last month, instead turning their focus to increasing high-speed internet access in their city sites. Overall, the assessment concluded that these models tend to be costly to implement as the city is responsible for establishing, operating, and maintaining a new service offering. They've also been criticized for competing with private business, and in some cases, there are pending legal challenges. And they are more likely to have success in small to medium-sized communities where there is a more contained geography and there are limited options in terms of other carriers in the market. In terms of next steps, there's an understanding that there's no simple out-of-the-box solution or public utility model that could be applied to Ottawa. This is due in large part to the considerable size of our municipality and the costs associated with implementing this type of model. Instead, the professional services concluded that more consideration needed to be given to the development of a made-in-Ottawa approach to digital infrastructure planning. Additionally, it will be important for the city to continue to meet with Hydro Ottawa's affiliate, Hibu Networks, to understand their service offering, their role within our evolving connectivity landscape, and to explore partnership opportunities in the future. Next slide, please. The map you see on this slide shows all the current and planned Wi-Fi locations and was generated using data that is available on Open Ottawa. For those interested, you can view the locations on a map, table view, or download the data. The slide also depicts the city's phased approach to our public Wi-Fi program. For some historical perspective, the city began offering free Wi-Fi in high-traffic, public-facing city facilities in 2014. The service was initially provided by an external service provider, but because of instability in the service and lower than expected revenue, the city took over the administration in 2019. These original 29 locations are referred to as Phase 1. With the onset of the global pandemic in 2020 and the resulting shift towards greater rates of remote work and education, the disparity in rates of coverage of connectivity across the city were further highlighted. As a result, the city began focusing its connectivity efforts on supporting marginalized populations, including equity-deserving groups and those with specific socioeconomic needs, and underserved neighborhoods, including those in rural areas of the city. In order to support the expansion of this service, staff have sought to leverage federal funding opportunities and were successful in obtaining approximately $180,000 to cover the capital installation cost of this service. A total of 23 priority locations were initially identified through the grant application process and validated by staff in community and social services and recreation, culture, and facility services. These investments will fund Phase 2 of the program, enabling 12 new locations in priority neighborhoods before the end of 2022, and a Phase 3, enabling 11 new locations in priority neighborhoods in rural areas in 2023. In 2022, the city will also extend the use of its public Wi-Fi network to local and visiting students, researchers, and faculty through EduRoam, a secure Wi-Fi service for the international research and education community that is available in more than 100 countries. In a report coming to the Agriculture Rural Affairs Committee at the end of June, the Planning, Real Estate and Economic Development Department will indicate that they will contribute $40,000 in funding that is earmarked for rural connectivity initiatives to increase the number of public Wi-Fi locations in city facilities in rural areas of the city. This investment will constitute a Phase 4 of public Wi-Fi program. Looking to the next term of council, ICS will continue to lead the public Wi-Fi program. As part of this, we will develop a comprehensive inventory of our public spaces that could potentially be Wi-Fi enabled. This will include an assessment of the feasibility based on availability of service at the different sites, as well as the estimated cost per location in terms of installation and ongoing operations. As we have done previously, we'll work with our colleagues in community and social services, particularly the Integrated Neighborhood Services team, and Recreation, Culture, and Facility Services to help assign priority to these locations from a community needs perspective. Likewise, we will also continue to actively seek out funding and partnership opportunities to provide this service. We will bring this forward as a package for consideration and budget purposes in the next term of council. Next slide, please. That comes to the end of our presentation. As part of the strategic planning process for the next term of council, ICS, in partnership with other city departments with a role in connectivity, will continue to examine the city's role in supporting the connectivity needs of its residents. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, both Natalie and Angela. Can I just confirm with Melinda that there are no public delegations on this?
There are no public delegations, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, we'll turn to questions of staff, and I'll ask Vice Chair Kavanaugh to ask hers.
Thank you very much, Angela, for your report. I think this all came out of the fact that during the pandemic, the importance of the internet was seen in a whole new light. It was a lifeline, and it was also a connectivity issue for people to go to school. They couldn't go to school without internet. And we had families living in social housing with 5 or 6 kids, trying to have them all go to school at the same time. So these were the issues. And it was appreciated to have the Wi-Fi in these centers, but people couldn't leave their houses, unfortunately. And I don't know what the future looks like if we're going to have more pandemics where we're all told to stay home again. But that's what brought about the concern for these issues, is the fact that people couldn't leave their homes. So the public locations are great, but that was the part that was problematic, is how to help people in their homes. And I appreciate all the partnership with the different agencies, different levels of government, because that's obviously incredibly important. My question is about the Hibu network and what the city's role is in that. You made it clear that the city doesn't want to be responsible for a public system available for those who can't afford it, but there's still a gap, and I'm not sure if we're hitting everyone who need, because we're hearing very clearly that those gaps are still there. And so I just want to know what the city's role is to help those that just simply can't afford the internet, and also what the role is of our national capital free net as well in this, which is our own homegrown network.
Okay, thank you, Chair, for the question. So staff just recently met with Hibu Network, so we're just beginning to understand sort of their business model. We understand that they are a business-to-business organization initially, is how they're setting up the service offering. So we are committed to meeting with them on an ongoing basis to understand how they are developing that service model, and to see whether or not there are opportunities for us to collaborate with them. And with respect to National Capital Freenet, that is an organization that we have met with in the past, and we are certainly open to meeting with them to understand what their service offering is, very much like any other ISP that the city would interact with.
My understanding is National Capital Freenet is interested in working with Hibu Networks, and I'm not aware of what the conversations are that have taken place, if any, at this point, but I believe the city can help to be proactive in making this happen, and to deal with an issue that is critical for those who can't afford it. Can I get a commitment that we will do that we will still play a role in this? Because I am concerned. I don't want to drop the ball on something that could be a great value to our community.
So thank you, Councillor. As Angela mentioned, we have had an initial meeting with Hibu Network. It's early days for them, and for us to understand how we might partner. So we have committed to meeting with them regularly to better understand the role they could play in addressing the affordability and availability issues that have been highlighted by committee.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I hope we have more meetings, and it's a gap that we still have to work on, and I'd like to hear more about it in terms of how we can help that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Seeing no other questions, I do have a question around next steps. In terms of formalizing the consultant's recommendations, will there be a report that moves forward at some point in probably the new term of council to talk about what staff recommendations are around municipal broadband and give us something to debate? Today's just a check-in, obviously, so.
Yes, thank you, Chair, for the question. We will be bringing forward a comprehensive report that will outline what those recommendations were.
Okay. It sounds today like it's very unlikely that city staff are going to recommend that the city set up a customer-facing ISP, as some municipalities have at least toyed with. Is that fair?
Yes, Council, I would say that is fair, given, again, the geography of the municipality, and was seen as very sort of cost prohibitive to set up something like this. So that is not the recommendation at this time.
Okay. Can I ask staff to undertake just a quick briefing to the members of this committee via memo of the recent Toronto decision to kind of change course or pivot? Fantastic. Yes, thank you. So seeing no further questions, is this item received? Amazing. Someone needs to say yes out loud, I think.
Received.
Thank you very much. So with that, we will turn to the third presentation today, which is the Open Data Update 2022, for which we're going to receive a briefing from Natalie again, Daryl Bridge, and Paul Steves. So I turn it over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair and members of IT Subcommittee. So as you mentioned, Chair, Dale Bridge and Paul Steves, our Senior Data Analyst Strategist and Service Transformation, will be joining me for this presentation. Together, they run the Open Data Program for the City of Ottawa. So we're pleased to provide you an update today on the city's Open Ottawa or Open Data Program. If I can get the presentation up, that would be great. Thank you so much. I'll double check to make sure. Yes, we're on the right one. Nous sommes heureux aujourd'hui de vous fournir une mise à jour sur le programme des données ouvertes de la ville. Over the 2019-2022 term of council, the Open Data Program has been focused on 3 key areas. These areas of focus were developed based on feedback received from the community. Engagement with the community continues to inform the evolution of the open data activities. And the COVID-19 pandemic is an example of how open data was used to visualize and communicate the emergence of the COVID-19 virus itself and the vaccination uptake within Ottawa. Des axes prioritaires tels que, we'll go ahead to the next slide, please. Les axes prioritaires tels que décrits dans le plan 2019-2022 sont de développer et optimiser des offres de données ouvertes, développer et soutenir la communauté des données ouvertes et mettre en œuvre une plateforme d'analyse ouverte. Compte tenu de ce domaine d'intérêt, l'équipe de données ouvertes de la Ville, tout au long du mandat du Conseil, a progressivement mis en place les éléments fondamentaux nécessaires à un programme et à une culture dynamique de données ouvertes. Le partenariat étroit entre le service des TI et l'équipe des données ouvertes a joué un rôle déterminant dans l'établissement de la base technologique solide nécessaire pour fournir les capacités de données ouvertes aux résidents d'Ottawa. The open data culture within the city and the community continues to grow. We are truly fortunate to have strong open data leads within each department, as well as Ottawa Public Services, Ottawa Public Library, and Ottawa Public Health. These leads help to coordinate the release of city data assets to the community. Application program interfaces such as API allow the application development community to connect to city data and develop data solutions and applications for the community. In addition, the strong partnerships with Carleton University and the University of Ottawa are providing students with the opportunity to work with real operational city data to grow their data skills. Students inspire us. They inject excitement into our program and bring new ideas to the table. I'm proud to share with you that we have made significant progress on the Open Data Program this term of council. and have seen the program rise up the Open Cities Index, ranking from 10th place in 2017 to 3rd place in 2019, and currently being ranked in 2nd place, so the 2nd most open city in Canada. We have accomplished so much in this term of council and look forward to continuing to further evolve the Open Data program in the years to come. Our ability, for an example, to closely work with Ottawa Public Health, Information Technology Services, and the Ottawa Neighborhood Study to help the development of these public dashboards and data sets is a testament to our maturing open data culture and its value to our community. This also supports the need to further expand our open data program and capabilities into the next term of council. Open data is a very powerful way to connect residents and businesses and visitors to city services as it supports open government, proactive transparency, innovation, data-driven service improvement, and decision-making. The 3 key areas of focus as described in the 2019-2022 plan are to expand and optimize the open data offering, to grow and support the open data community, and implement an open data analytics platform. Nous avons fait des progrès significatifs sur le programme des données ouvertes au cours de ce mandat. En 2017, la ville se situe en 3e place. En 2019, nous sommes actuellement classés en 2e rang et maintenant nous sommes en 2e rang au Canada. Nous avons tant accompli au cours de ce mandat. Daryl and Paul will now provide members of IT subcommittee with highlights in each of these focus areas. They will showcase examples of new data sets released, the value of partnerships across city services, academic partnerships, and share with you how we are developing our data culture within the city through the Data Club. Without delay, I will now turn over the presentation to Daryl to expand further.
Thank you, Natalie, for that introduction. Next slide, please. With regards to expanding and optimizing the open data offerings, the city will identify additional data sets suitable for open data, prioritize and publish additional data sets as open data, and optimize the current open data offerings based on public demand and city priorities to fuel digital solutions. Next slide, please. For the course of the first 5 months of 2022, the Open Data team within Service Transformation has continued to work with the city departments to release valuable city data to the public that is aligned with public demand and the strategic priorities of council. As of May 1st, 2022, the city has released 30 additional data sets this year, bringing the total number of data sets released this term of council to 150. Next slide, please. I've highlighted 4 data sets on the slide and have been released in 2022. Community and Social Services Department has released the point-in-time PIT counts that provide a one-day snapshot of the population in our community experiencing homelessness. Ottawa Public Health continues to be an open data champion and has released the COVID-19 vaccination coverage by age and location. Planning, Real Estate, and Economic Development have released the population and household estimates by ward data set. And finally, Traffic Services, again, one of our great open data champions in the city, within Public Works Department, has released 8 years of traffic collision data. Next slide, please. The Municipal Address Point dataset provides the location of addresses for buildings and structures within the City of Ottawa. The Road Centerline dataset provides the location of road centerline segments of roads and streets associated with attributes such as the address range and the road classifications. Both of these data sets are used by many mapping tools and mobile applications within the City of Ottawa, as well as third-party developed solutions such as the OpenStreetMap. In June of 2022, data enhancements are planned to both data sets to improve the overall usability and quality of the data sets. The open data community will be kept up to date on these data set changes through our Engaged Ottawa site. Next slide, please. Our next focus area is to grow and support the open data community. The city will find opportunities to promote open data, open analytics across Ottawa, identify community needs, and foster partnerships that will enable digital innovation. Next slide, please. As part of the partnership with Carleton University, the Water Services branch of Infrastructure and Water Services Department worked with a team of master level students on a data challenge to predict when and where water main breaks will occur. This partnership and research were focused on identifying the factors that contribute to water main breaks in order to understand where the City of Ottawa should conduct condition assessments. Their analysis demonstrated that there was significant relationship between water main breaks and the time of day. Additional research is needed to identify the contributing factors to this relationship. The students presented their findings at Carleton's annual Data Day and finished second overall in their presentation. With specific recognition on their approach and data science techniques the students used as part of this term project. Next slide, please. Jointly hosted by the Faculty of Science and Carleton University's Institute for Data Science, Data Day is an annual conference that celebrates the latest developments in data science and analytic research. Data Day includes presentations by Carleton researchers and industry experts, a keynote address, panel discussion, and networking opportunities, as well as a poster competition to showcase graduate student research in data science across all disciplines. The Social Policy Research and Analytics Manager within Community and Social Services, and I represented the city on a careers in data science panel with other panelists from Shopify, IBM, and MindBridge to share experiences and give the attendees insight into a career in the data science field. Now I'll turn over the presentation to my colleague, Paul Steeves, to speak about the work we have done at the University of Ottawa.
Yeah, thanks, Daryl. Next slide, please. So internal and external engagement continues to play an important role in growing and expanding the open data program. So as part of a multidisciplinary master's level design course at the University of Ottawa, groups of students from the faculties of engineering and arts work to develop visualizations based on the 17 UN Sustainable Development Goals. To help the students, the open data team partnered with the Ottawa Neighborhood Study to deliver an open data workshop covering the basic concepts related to open data, data storytelling, and data visualization. Next slide, please. The students presented their data visualizations at the University of Ottawa's annual Design Day in March. That's hosted by the Center for Entrepreneurship and Engineering Design. The Open Data team and the Ottawa Neighborhood Study Program Manager acted as judges for the open category of the event. The student projects included paintings, children's books, comic books, interactive maps, and dashboards, all using data to tell the story of the UN Sustainable Development Goals. Next slide, please. Councillor Leeper, I appreciate your kind remarks about Data Club. Internally, in support of increasing data literacy at the city and to build a community of practice for staff interested in data, a virtual Data Club was launched in 2021. The Data Club continues to meet on a monthly basis to discuss topics such as analytics, data governance, open data, data strategies, and data collection techniques, all within a municipal context. Contributors share best practices and lessons learned, all in an effort to promote further innovation. This year, the club featured speakers from Community and Social Services, the Information Technology Services team, York Region's Data Analytics and Visualization Services team, and Service Transformation. Data Club sessions continue to be popular with an average of 60 to 70 staff attending each session. Next slide, please. Established in 2017, the Equity and Inclusion Lens is an important tool to support the work of city staff, management, and council. The Equity and Inclusion Lens helps us to be consistent and coherent in our efforts to move equity and inclusion forward in our services for our people and to the benefit of our city. As part of the 2022 Open Data Work Plan, the Open Data team are working with Community and Social Services to assess our current open data practices and policies using a gender equity lens. In addition, the Data Club and the internal Women.net affinity group will be hosting a joint event in June to promote the women and gender equity strategy to city staff and to share the role data has played in the development and execution of the strategy. Next slide, please. The third and final focus area is to implement and support open analytics at the city. Next slide, please. So the Community and Social Services Department continues to demonstrate innovation in the analytics space, and in April of this year, released a point-in-time dashboard along with the accompanying data sets on open data. The purpose of this dashboard is to provide a snapshot and account of our population experiencing homelessness. Next slide, please. The City of Ottawa was also selected by Statistics Canada for an exploratory project using municipal level financial data to develop city level comparisons. The Municipal Finance and Socioeconomic Dashboard is a partnership with the Federation of Canadian Municipalities and contains city profiles, which include data for revenue and expenses, assets and liabilities, demographic data, crime severity, a new housing price index, consumer price index, and labor force characteristics. The soft launch of the dashboard was on March 25th, 2022, and included data from 16 municipalities from across Canada. Statistics Canada is working towards including all Canadian municipalities in the dashboard over time. I will now turn the presentation back over to my colleague, Daryl.
Thank you, Paul. Next slide, please. Municipalities are looking at additional communication channels to engage and share information with residents. Voice-enabled services such as voice assistants such as Google Assistant, Amazon Alexa, chatbots, and text agents are new ways to provide residents with information about city programs and services. The Open Data team are currently investigating a proof of concept to test voice-enabled services that are powered by open data. Next slide, please. Service transformation will develop an engagement approach with the open data community for the open data plan for the next term of council. The engagement approach will involve a series of in-person consultations, online consultations, and surveys to solicit feedback from a broad range of internal and external stakeholders to ensure that the plan is aligned with the strategic goals of the city, public demand, and the city's commitment to open government. The engagement approach will embrace inclusivity to remove barriers and encourage participation in the development of the plan from a wide range of stakeholders. Next slide, please. In 2010 and 2013, the Open Data program hosted 2 successful Apps for Ottawa contests, which resulted in a growth in the number of data sets available through the Open Data catalog, building relationships within the Open Data community, and the development of many mobile applications and data visualizations using city data. Given the recent success of the data challenges with the students both at Carleton University and the University of Ottawa, the Open Data program would like to extend these data challenges to the general public to participate in the future. Similar to the Apps for Ottawa contest, the goal would be to leverage city data to develop data visualizations, data storytelling, and data science solutions that are aligned with the strategic priorities of the city. These challenges would help educate the general public on city services and programs and promote the use of city data and increase data literacy within our community. These activities would help build and strengthen our relationship within the community and encourage city departments and partners to release additional data sets that are aligned with the city's priorities in serving our community. The City of Ottawa would be looking again for industry partners to co-host the data challenges, provide data literacy training for the public, and provide prizes. The planning work related to the challenges will take place in 2022, with the launch of these challenges taking place in the next term of council. Next slide, please. This concludes our presentation this morning. Thank you to the members of the IT subcommittee for the opportunity to provide an update on the Open Data program within the City of Ottawa. We'd be happy to answer your questions or take your comments.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all. I do get unnaturally excited by the open data discussion. It is one of my priorities. If we give smart people data about the city, they are going to help us build a better city. And the work you're doing is foundational to that. Councillor King, you have questions of staff.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I do agree with that comment as well. I think that when you have open data, you have innovation, and you have innovation both from civil society, people who might be building applications or applets for the public good. And then you also, of course, have the commercial sector who will be able to look at ways of creating more commercial solutions, ideally building the potential for economic development opportunities in our high-tech sector. So we're really pleased, of course, that open data, I think, leads to better governance and more democracy. So I do appreciate the chair's comments. I did have a question, and I really do thank staff for their efforts around using predictive design and working with students at Carleton to do that, to model water main failure. I know that obviously hydro is not the purview of the city governance through this model, obviously, we do have an independent operating company that's responsible for hydro. But I was thinking of the benefits of predictive design, especially as we enter into a continual age of crisis, and ensuring that we can manage failure, which your pilot project that you've been undertaking with Carleton University is doing. So in that vein, I'm wondering, are we exploring using predictive design in other areas concerning failure of critical infrastructure that is more in the direct purview of the city?
Thank you, Councillor, for the question, and through the chair. We're continue to build these partnerships. So Carleton has really built up their data science program. They actually currently have a master's and a PhD program. And we see these partnerships both with Carleton and Ottawa U, and we actually want to expand these partnerships even further. So we have Algonquin, La Cité within the city as well. These data analytics skills are very sought after in the industry. And I'm very proud of the city because the students can pick anything for their project. So we actually went up against the NHL. So actually one of the projects was actually doing NHL analysis of players, and the students really have an opportunity to really do anything they want. And then when they pick the city, that's really meaningful. And when we have a conversation with the city, the students love the city. And it's so interesting. We have a vast array of data that it gives us a great opportunity. Specifically to your question around infrastructure, yes, we are working with them. And I actually do know Hydro is working with them as well. So Hydro has actually been working with Carleton for a number of years on smart grid technology. So they are doing some testing at Carleton as well. And it's something what we talked in the last presentation around connectivity. It's again, that ecosystem and these partnerships. And we want to build that relationship further with Hydro. And again, in terms of the open data, Hydro's got lots of data too. We'd love to actually release some of the Hydro data. And we saw during the last outage how important that map was, and so how hard it was actually to keep up to date with that map because of the devastation we saw in Ottawa. But what I've always been excited about in terms of Hydro is that level of communication with the public. We saw it in the tornado too. That level of communication with the public is so critical, and Councillor Kavanaugh raised that level of importance. And we really feel open data is that one venue that gives us opportunity to communicate with the public. So hopefully, Councillor King, that has answered your question, but we will continue to do that.
Well, I appreciate the continued efforts. I think obviously the city and we could arguably say all municipalities across Ontario have massive infrastructure deficits. We know that there is the potential for major failures of infrastructure. We saw that with Hydro. We're going to see that with other infrastructure. And I think it's going to be important for us to really utilize this technique of predictive design and modeling to determine that areas of concern, and to ensure that we do address these deficits in the most technologically innovative way possible. As you said, there's a constellation of information. There's potentially a constellation of technologies that could be deployed through Internet of Things. Yes. So I think it is important for us to obviously pilot this and build those relationships with our academic institutions. But it's also, I think, important for us to look at ways of making eventually serious investments in these technologies so that we can mitigate and hopefully prevent massive failures in infrastructure. So I really thank you for the work that you're doing. I think this is very innovative, as well as the work on digital twin technologies in planning. And I think that this is the way that we need to go, ensuring that we utilize all these technologies, including artificial intelligence, so that we can really ensure that we are making the corrective investments in our infrastructure and having a good sense of what we need to do to protect those investments. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor King. Vice Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And thank you, Daryl, for the excellent presentation. It's very exciting. Of course, as soon as you said we're number 2, I had to find out who's number 1 so we can, go after them. Who is it?
Number one is Edmonton. So every year, the Open Public Sector Digest runs the Open City Index. Edmonton is one every single year. Toronto was number 2 for a number of years. Actually, what's amazing is Winnipeg was number 3 for a number of years too. And actually, Winnipeg is number 3. You don't think of Winnipeg, but Winnipeg has done some really innovative things. And we feel very fortunate. Paul and I sit on a committee called the G4 Plus. And the G4 Plus is a group that meets monthly. And it's the leading open data programs across Canada. So this is Vancouver, Edmonton, Calgary, Winnipeg, Toronto, and Montreal, and Ottawa. So what we're very fortunate in this, being open data champions within our cities, what it allows us to do is share our best practices, our lessons learned, our challenges, and it's such a great community. And we were gunning for Edmonton, but they're really tough. They have a great open government practice in Edmonton. They've done some really innovative things. So, but we'll continue to gun for number 1.
It's very healthy competitiveness. And don't get me wrong, I'm very proud of Ottawa and your team, believe me. So no, just curious. No, thank you very much. And I appreciate the gender and diversity equity data. That's particularly important. And I appreciate it because we can't change anything until we know what's already there. So so numbers are important, data is important. Is it possible to work with groups out there, the ones that that are working on these issues, the nonprofit groups like Cowie, for example? Do you entertain questions from them if they're looking for data?
Oh, definitely. And we met part of the community safety well-being plan through the development. We had a number of nonprofits reach out to us. A lot of nonprofits are able to leverage city data if they're doing grant funding or just trying to get general analysis or environmental scanning. So yeah, happy to work with all nonprofits. We see a great partnership with community social services too right now. With the Women and Gender Equity Strategy, the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan, we really see this as the ecosystem that we work in. And I kind of like Councillor King's comments earlier in terms of innovation and really these partnerships that we can really grow. Like, this is how you change a city. This is how you grow a city. Is we can't just do it from the administration side. It's really just the community side. And the recent events through the storm have really shown that the community has really stepped up. And we see it in the open data community all the time. And Paul, myself, Natalie, and Angela, we're definitely open to any nonprofit, happy to go talk to them, happy to help them build their data literacy skills. There's been some great work around data literacy in the nonprofits, and definitely see them as key stakeholders and key partners in terms of really evolving our city and making our city an even better place to live. I know we're ranked pretty high in that ranking too as well. I remember Watson has mentioned it this week as well. So thank you. That's great. I get questions, of course, at the community level on this, and it's great if I can direct them to the teams, but really useful. And yeah, no, I think it's good to teach people, give people the tools of how to use the data. It's there, but you need to know the methodology to get through it and interpret it correctly, because it's a lot. So I really appreciate it. I think it's very exciting, and thank you for your work.
Thank you very much, Vice Chair. Seeing no other questions, I'll just pose one or two. The frequent request that I get, I'm just taking advantage of the fact that I've got you in front of me. The frequent request I get is for tax receipts by category, by ward. And I'm wondering if you could take a look at putting that up. If I ask the Treasurer's Office for it, they can provide it for me. But I'd love to have that in a machine readable format online and just regularly uploaded. Which brings me to my question. If residents if residents have data sets that they'd like to see, is that something that they can request? And if so, how would they do it?
Thank you, Chair, for the question. And yeah, to your first point in terms of working with finance, happy to work with Wendy Stephenson and her team in terms of releasing that information. As long as there's no privacy or concerns around the data, we're happy to release it in terms of, we really see open data as a proactive disclosure. We'd rather residents have the information instead of having to constantly request the information. In terms of, I'm trying to remember your question now. Oh, how the public can ask for data sets. So we have an open channel through our Engage Ottawa site. We have a dedicated channel to say, what data would you like to see? And we actually receive over this term of council over 80, Paul, correct me if I'm wrong on the number, but I think it was around 88 requests for data. And it's really interesting. And Paul, Angela and Natalie and myself really like looking at this data. It gives us really good insight in terms of what the community is interested in. At the start of the term of council, a lot of transportation requests. I would say the bulk of the requests are around transportation, and mainly because light rail. And you look at it as the term of council changed, a huge focus on COVID. And our partners in public health, wow, what an outstanding job they've done. That EPI team within public health, top notch. The research that's done at the University of Ottawa as well, it's just amazing in terms of the level of openness. And Dr. Vera Etcher is really embodying the embracing open government and the power of releasing information to the public. And what we've seen, like public health releasing their dashboards and their data sets, it's been so informative for our community to understand what's happening. So yeah, public can always submit a request. We do have an email address, but we actually prefer it done on Engage because we want the whole community to see it. And we really have that open dialogue. So a lot of Engage sites, they go up and they go down. We keep our dialogue open. And we're really excited in the next term of council and with the COVID-19 restrictions lifting, kind of what Councillor Kavanaugh said, we want to go out to the community groups. We want to go to the nonprofit groups. We want to get out in the community more and actually understand their data needs. And if there's data literacy needs, we have a lot of partners that we work with to really help these groups as well.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. So I'll just ask the committee then, is this item received?
Received.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Daryl, Natalie, Paul. That was fascinating to me anyways. So our last item on the agenda is to go in camera to discuss security. So I think Vice Chair Kavanaugh has a motion to go for us to resolve in camera. You're on mute, Teresa.
Sorry about that. That in accordance with procedure bylaw 2021-24, the Information Technology Subcommittee resolved to move in camera pursuant to subsection 13(1)(a) to close part of the meeting to members of the public as the subject matter considered is the security of the property of the city, and a verbal update will be provided on cybersecurity and the external threat landscape, which is confidential and will not be reported out.
Is that carried? I think Wilson. Fantastic.
Are there coordinates for this in-camera meeting? It's Councillor Meehan asking.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I will resend the confidential link to those members who are present, and you can access it via the email I will be sending shortly.
Thank you so much.
So that will take us a few minutes to get set up in camera. For those who are watching, I don't expect that it will be a long meeting, and when we come back, we'll report out and conclude this meeting. So I'll see you in a few minutes, community members. Thank you. Thanks for rejoining, Ralston. And I also see Councillor Kavanaugh, and I think I see Councillor Curry as well. And I think since we're just going to be ending up wrapping it up, I will get underway as soon as Caitlin indicates we can do so.
Mr. Chair, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. So for the benefit of those joining us online, the Information Technology Subcommittee just met in camera in order to receive a verbal update on cybersecurity and the external threat landscape. These matters are confidential as they relate to Procedure Bylaw subsection 13(1)(a), the security of the property of the city, and will not be reported out. During the in-camera session, no votes were taken other than procedural motions and/or directions to staff. Is this item received?
Received.
Thank you. So to just get through the last portion here, are there any notices of motion for consideration at a subsequent meeting? See none. Are there any inquiries? I don't see any. Is there any other business? I don't see any. And therefore we are adjourned. Thank you very much. And thank you very much to staff. I know you put a ton of work in to today's presentations. They were enlightening and I'm greatly appreciative of them. I hope all of our IT staff, if I don't have a chance to talk to you, have a wonderful summer. And to my colleagues, enjoy the rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.